Yeah. So then, tell us about you. Your professional career. How did you get started to where you got attracted to iCG?
Right. Well, probably within about the last 30 years, I've only had but a couple of jobs. I spent about 20 years in the automotive industry, mostly as a business manager, do the financing, the insurance, that sort of thing. After about 20 years of that, I was the operations manager for another company. So, which is how I kind of sort of got to know Jason and ICG. I knew Jason a little bit from the community. He was very active in our local community doing baseball. He was not only a coach, but the president of a baseball league. And one day he just approached me about doing business with my company. And I kind of blew that off initially because I was pretty set in that world, I thought. And he was pretty
Mhm.
persistent and he kept talking about it. And all of a sudden I realized he had a lot of solutions that I could use, for my company. So we brought him in. It ended up not being a good fit, more on my company's part than Jason's fit. But as the world was shutting down for COVID, I was looking for placement for some of my people, and Jason was hiring. I talked to him. Next thing I knew, in typical Jason fashion, I was being recruited, and I was happy to come on board. I remember probably my first day, they had a company-wide meeting, which we call ICG Local, as you know, or Global, I should say.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering about the state of the company. From outside looking in, I could tell that it was a company that was growing and so forth. But how was COVID affecting this? And I remember one of the first statements out of his mouth was that not only is this not affecting us, we're on a slight uptick. So I just couldn't tell you how reassuring that was because that's when I began, right as the world shut down with COVID.
Okay. Wow. So when exactly did you join ICG?
It was April of 2020, again, just when that was all kicking into gear. So.
Yeah, that's such an interesting time to come in when COVID was, blowing up all over the place.
Right.
And how do you feel about ICG's company culture?
About the culture, they have a great company culture. It's one of the most positive places I've ever worked. There's not much negativity, if any, that comes out of it. There's constructive criticism or coaching it sometimes, but it's pretty much all positive. So it's one of the
Yeah,
best cultures I've ever been involved in my career.
that's really great. And I'm looking here, 3,266 minutes of activity in February. How did you manage that?
In Udemy, is that what you're saying? Asking me the
Not,
continued
not
education?
really.
Well,
No,
that's you
the
can.
ICG strong minute count.
Oh, the ICG strong. Okay. Well, that's another thing. You talk about the culture, they teach a work-life balance here. And I've always been of the mindset that's up to the individual. If that individual wants to work, 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 that's up to them. But the company as a whole encourages you to have a balance and they know you're stuck at a desk a lot and they want you up and active and moving and keeping you healthy. So it's been a great opportunity since working with that, taking the time, and we have little contests and things that help you score and gauge that, and it just keeps you motivated. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm really impressed about those, over 3,000 minutes of working out
Is
in
that right? I had
February
no
alone.
idea. I
Yeah.
didn't know what the total minutes were, but yeah.
What do you mostly enjoy about your job?
Well, every day's something different. There's some sameness but difference because I do a lot of underwriting, and it's you're looking for risk, so you're kind of investigating every day. So every day's a little mystery, a new something new comes in, and you're exploring. So it's just always you never know what you're going to find, what tunnel you're going to go down, what rabbit hole. But it's interesting. It keeps it interesting every day.
How do you feel about what do you feel is the company's greatest strength?
Uh, Couple things. I think the greatest strength is their ability to adapt to anyone's needs. My memory of talking with Jason and Alexandra Duke back then, Alexandra Bach now, was almost anything I would ask. Can you do this? Can you do this? We can do that. I think we can do that. I think we can do that. So their ability to listen to what a merchant would need, and the ability to build that, and then again just the service that they provide and the attitude that they do it with.
How does this job align with your long-term career goals?
With my long-term career goals, well, again, with this company, they're always offering you different opportunities. You'll do something for a while, and they'll ask you one day, just out of the blue, "Have you ever considered this? Would you like to be a part of this? Would you like to do this?" So I just see a continuation of that right down the line with my career, you know. And I'm always
Yeah.
willing to explore any other avenue or any other task or anything. So I guess more of the same. That's how I look forward to it.
Do you feel like your skills and abilities are being fully utilized in your role?
I do, yeah. Yeah, they're very good at tapping into almost everybody's. They're good at reading what you're good at, what you're adept at, and that's what they'll ask you for. You know, they'll come to a certain individual and say, "Well, I think you can help out more on this team. You could do that." So absolutely, yeah.
So you started in 2020, so that's
Mhm.
like 3 years now. How
Correct.
has your role evolved since you started?
Just more duties. You know, you started out just straight underwriting, which I had never done before, but I had been on the opposite side of that, so I kind of knew how it worked. So you just had to reverse engineer your thinking a little bit to be on the other side. But after that, they would just come to you, "Hey, we've got this group, we've got this, we think you could help out here." So I'm part of a group that's called the Gatekeepers. So, you know, that's exactly what we do. We guard the gates against some nefarious stuff. And again, that keeps it interesting as well. So,
Yeah, and you do a really good job. We really appreciate your work.
well, thank
Uh,
you.
what opportunities for growth and development have you been given at iCG?
There's always opportunity for growth and development. Again, they'll come to you and ask, "Do you want to be part of this team?" Whether it's part of the management team, part of this risk, gatekeeper team. They're always also always wanting to hear your thoughts and ideas. They may not always, put into action something you said, but they always listen and they're always eager to hear it. And
Mhm.
you always feel like you're being heard here.
What benefits do you value the most from your job?
Probably going back to that company culture, I can't tell you how important that is. I've come from some environments that were tough and I learned a lot. But I mean, it could be brutal at days, and I don't miss that. I mean, I really miss I don't miss the negativity. I just love the positivity of this all every day. It's not that there isn't always something you can improve on. It's not that they won't tell you, "Hey, you need to do better at this. We need more of this." But it's never done in a negative manner. It's a way to help you grow and just add more value to the team.
Okay. And following up on that, so you said you had some previous bad experiences. Maybe can you mention one
Well, I
of the
wouldn't call
worst
them
that you
bad
had?
experiences so much, but they were, it was a lot of high pressure and very demanding. For instance, in the last role, I was actually the COO, and I had a very volatile president, CEO, and for good reason. I mean, he had a B, but, it was a lot of pressure and it could be a lot of negative. So I had to be the buffer. In other words, all that heat would come down, and then I had to buffer that for the rest of the company. So you had to take a lot of that. It's just a different
Mhm.
style, and it was a different environment. It's just not the nature of the founders of this company. They're not that way, and that just trickles down. Their attitude trickles down throughout that company, throughout our company. So
How do you feel about the level of recognition and appreciation you receive for your work?
the level of commitment I receive,
Recognition and appreciation you receive for your
oh,
work.
the appreciation. It's
Yes.
constant. They constantly reaffirm you here, constantly. So yeah,
Okay.
couldn't ask for
Nice.
more.
Great, great. How would you describe the relationships you have with your colleagues?
I can't think of a bad one, especially amongst the department heads. I mean, there's such professionals. I think the first person I met, other than Jason and Nikki, when I before I came employed here, was Alexandra Bach. She was mind blowing. At the company I was with, we were like, could we hire 20 more of her? And then you meet her boss, Sally, who's just been in this realm for years and is such a pro at it and just one of the kindest, nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And right down the line with Nate, all their expertise. I mean, Jason's really put together such a good team here, and so I appreciate my colleagues more than I can say. Every one of them.
Absolutely. Nice. So now we're going to get to personal questions about your professional development.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is not just about iCG, but your entire professional life. What inspired you to pursue your current career path, and how did you get started in this field?
Okay. Well, again, I guess it goes back to the automotive industry. I was in sales for a while. That led into the finance department, which we called it the business manager back then, because you handled all forms of that business. So you just learned a lot in that role over the years. And I moved up the ladder in that, so I learned how to analyze credit risk very well throughout the years. After that, becoming an operations manager, you learn so much about business itself. Just you had to learn quick, how to handle things, legalities, and so forth. So I guess it's just given me a lot of experience over those 25 plus years for when I came into this role, that I had a good breadth of knowledge from those previous roles. And some of that high pressure and everything that I spoke of that I don't necessarily miss did hone my skills, I think, though, over the years. So I don't regret it. I appreciate all those years, but I appreciate now even more, the little different culture that I have, though.
Totally get you. What have been the most significant challenges you've faced in your career so far, and how have you
The
overcome them?
challenges, probably
Yeah.
world events, I would say two world events. One would be the financial crash back in 2008 or 9. I was, I was in the finance business, so that had a great effect on that. And how do you adapt to that? And then again, of course, when COVID hit the world in 2020, so and then I made a change and come to this company. So those were probably the two biggest things that were sort of out of your control, and then what you do and how you adapt to it when it happens. So, and I learned from both of those
Great.
experiences.
What would you say, like in the 208 situation, how did you overcome that situation?
Mm-hmm. Well, in that particular case, I didn't see much we could do in the financial department. It just wasn't going to happen until that settled down. So in that particular thing, I took a little break, came back to it, and stepped back from financing for about a year, and first learned what a BDC manager was. I said, you're going to need one. This is being required. I can be that guy. And so I built a BDC department at that juncture and got that up and running. And then by that time, the economy had settled back down, and I sort of turned that back over. It wasn't my passion. It was fun to build, but I didn't want to do that long haul, and then went back into the financing. So again, I was with the company, but I just adjusted. I said, this particular role isn't going to pay the bills for about the next year, but I think I can do this for you, and I think you need this. And it all worked out.
Great. And of course, I think for the pandemic issue, iCG came to the rescue.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I hadn't planned to make a move. We were going to shut it down for a few months, but Jason, I was telling him, you've got great salespeople, but you're one of the best, and Jason just pitched his company, and it was like, basically, I'm talking about other people. And at one point in the conversation, he goes, well, man, I'm trying to recruit you. And I'm like, really? I was flattered and honored, but I don't know what I can offer you. And he starts telling you what he thinks you can offer him. And yeah, it did. It made the decision very easy. And it was so comforting to come aboard and see the trajectory of the company, and it wasn't being affected by this pandemic like so many other industries were. So, that was just fantastic.
And what skills have you developed over the years that you are most proud of? And how have you leveraged those skills to grow in your career?
The skills that I've developed, I think it's there's nothing specific. It's between those two roles. I really think that last role, the 5 years of being the operation manager under such heat, taught me how to handle heat, how to handle pressure, not to get overly excited, to maintain. You sort of have to maintain an image, because everybody below you is looking at you for, how you're going to react to something. So I think that's the best skill I learned, was just how to react.
How do you stay up to date on the latest developments in your industry? And do you have like any resources that you use to continue your professional development?
Sure. Well, I do a lot of searches on my own and read constantly, especially when it comes to finance. And now that I've been in underwriting for the last few years, anything pertaining to that industry. Another great thing about our company is they encourage, learning. They set us up for courses with Udemy and other opportunities. So we have that chance to explore not only what's in industry related, but you can go non-industry, and sometimes you'll be surprised how those things tie in. You're in different certifications, obviously, but those are one of the biggest factors. So again, more encouragement from the company. They want you to learn. They want you to be well-rounded. So, and they give you the time to do it.
In your entire career, what has been your proudest moment to date, and why was it significant to you?
Mm-hmm. I think my proudest moment would go way back in the auto industry, maybe before I went into finance. I had been in sales. I'd never done it before. And a couple years into that, the manufacturer called me one day for an interview like we're doing now and informed me that I had sold more of this particular product than anybody in the United States. And then they flew me overseas. At that point, I was in Korea, and offered me a job within the company. I didn't take it. I stayed in the private sector at that time. But I think that was the proudest moment because I had no idea I had those kind of numbers. I was doing my job, and to find out that I had done more not only in my state or my region, but they said, no, the whole country, man, you're the guy. I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. So
Yeah, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
well,
Let's assume you're talking to somebody who has just started out in your field. What advice would you give them?
okay. I think just constantly learn, as we just talked about the education, read as much as you can. I think almost anybody could do this job. It's analytical, but it just takes curiosity and staying on top of, current trends. You can learn almost anything. You can learn how to read credit. It just comes with time, but have a mentor, somebody you can talk to about it, ask for advice. And we do a lot of that here. I think people coach and mentor each other. I've had people come to me for advice, and then I turn around and I'll go to that person. Stephanie is a great example who works in our underwriting team. She'll come to you, ask questions galore because we're older, been more experienced, been around. And then I find myself going back where Stephanie's so adept at different things that I'm constantly asking her, and she's coaching me, all the time on new things. So yeah, it's reciprocal.
Back to work-life balance. So we've talked about learning, we've talked about iCG, strong minutes. So that's exercise, which is really impressive. I'm still amazed at how you can be so consistent. I'm seeing here, it's like you never miss a day. You never miss working out any day. That's
Well,
really
it feels
impressive.
good, man.
So
So
yeah, you must be very healthy.
trying.
So okay, how do you balance your professional development with your personal life and other commitments? What strategies or tools do you use?
Well, you got to have a little fun, between. I mean, we talk about that. The exercise is important and it's fun. I try to do things that are fun to do. Have kids, I enjoy them. For years, they were involved in sports, and I went with them. I like sports, like to travel, vacations, family time. So yeah, I mean, typical stuff, really.
Okay, that's great. So you have like a specific hours for work and a specific time you shut down everything, focus on your kids, or
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it typically, depending on what time zone we're in, I know you're in a different one and so forth, but Eastern Standard, I think the guidelines would probably be 9 to 5. But I think most of us, and we all have our different routines. My routine's probably about 7:30. I just start reading through some emails, looking at our internal chats, trying to get myself up to date before I sit down with my coffee at my desk around 9ish to work. So during that time, again, though, you're encouraged if you need to take a break, if you need to go walk a mile, do something, stretch, go do it. If that means later on, I work a couple hours later at night, no big deal. It's kind of at your pace as long as you get it done.
we've talked about some of the strengths that we have. Do you feel there's any areas that we need to improve on?
Anything that I can improve on? Sure. I think where my weakest point is, where I probably drive my director, Sarah, a little crazy, is that if I don't do something consistent, in other words, if I'm shown something new,
Mhm.
And I don't take the initiative to like, make me do that again, make me do that tomorrow, make me do that the next day. And then I come back at it 2 weeks later, I'm going to be very sloppy at it and have somebody picking up after me. So
Okay.
somebody shouldn't have to tell me. I should be reaching out more to them and getting out of a comfort zone in that regards and say, man, I hated doing that thing yesterday, but can I do another one just so I get it better? So that's probably my weak where I need to improve the most.
And ICG, where do you feel like ICG needs to improve on?
Where they need to improve? I don't know, man. They're doing phenomenal. I guess there's room for improvement in everything. They're looking more at their marketing and sales, which I think does a good job. I think they're just tweaking and honing. So I guess they just need to continue to do that, hone how they market and how they sell. And otherwise, it's just coming together great.
No, okay. That's I totally agree with you on that. So we have just some like four humorous questions to finish on. So nothing serious, no wrong answer.
Okay.
So number one, if you could rename our company, what would you name it and why?
If I could rename our company, well, that's an interesting question. I think I just like iCG and make people ask you what iCG means. And we do that internally a lot. We call it iCG, but I see iCG checkgateway.com, and it seems wordy at sometimes, but it says exactly what it is. And I get it. You can go to the address, but that's just internally, I always think of it as iCG. So
Yeah, even in marketing, we just like it as ICG. Uh, and if you could swap jobs with anyone in the company for one day, who would it be and why?
Well, maybe one of the salespeople that works for Sally. I don't know that I could do Sally's job. She's got too many decades of experience on it, but sometimes I miss sales. So yeah, for every now and then, I'd like to jump back in and sell something.
I would have guessed it. If you are the biggest salesman in America in your previous role, then definitely you'd want to do something in sales.
Right. I don't know that I'd ever want to do that full time again, but there's every now and then you get that little itch to do it again.
Okay. And if you could describe your job using only emojis, which emoji would you choose?
Only an emoji. Use a brain. Do they have a brain as an emoji?
Yeah, there's an
All
emoji.
right,
There's a
we'll use a
brain emoji.
brain. How's a brain?
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's cool. Oh, there's one more here. So if you were trapped in the office overnight and there was a ghost, what office supply would you use to defend yourself against the office ghost?
As the office goes, I'd use a stapler. Stapler comes in handy for a lot of things, including a weapon.
Okay, nice. Okay, that was very interesting. Do you have anything else that you would want to add about your experience that I've not mentioned?
I think we covered it all, Walter. I think we did it.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Great stuff. Continue doing the good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, Walter.